Rajeev, Elan, and Madhuri, a warm welcome to you all on Filme Shilmy, and congratulations on Evil Eye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, I think just beginning with you, Rajeev and Elan, how did the film's idea come about? And at what stage did kind of Amazon and Blumhouse and Priyanka come on board for the film?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Madhuri should definitely talk about the beginning. I'll say that we came on actually fairly late in the process. It was already set up with Amazon, Blumhouse, and Purple Pebble. Priyanka was on board. Madhuri had already written the feature script, and so we
Right.
came on essentially about 2 months before pre-production. I'm sorry, before shooting started, to essentially kind of do the process. And for us, we loved the concept, we loved the writing, we thought it was an amazing story, and it just sort of fit a lot of what we were looking for in a story. So we kind
Hmm.
of jumped on and went from there. But Madhuri
Right.
can talk about kind of how it was actually put together because she was at the beginning.
Yeah, Madhuri, please, if you could add on to that as well, that would be wonderful as well.
Yeah. Evil Eye was an audio play
Mhm.
originally, and I had been commissioned by Audible to write something for their platform. So while I was working on the audio play, my manager sent the script around to different production houses in Hollywood, and so uh, Purple Pebble was interested, and Blumhouse, and then Amazon were interested, and they all kind of came together. And um, the audio play itself launched May of 2019, and then the movie, we started work on the movie July August of 2019. So it was a really fast process. And
Wow.
Rajiv and Elan came on board, I think, like September of that same year. So it was great. It was a whirlwind, It was just really fast and really cool.
Yeah, I think it is definitely very cool. I think because the fact that it is perhaps arguably one of the first Indian American horror films, I think, to emerge on such a scale as well, and to have backing of such big names like Amazon and Blumhouse as well. I think it's definitely a big one. I also find it very fascinating to see the cast. I mean, Sunita is. I've seen her work before in a film called Death of Dick Long, and I was very, very impressed
Yeah.
by her performance. I mean, given the fact that she was the character that she played in that film was arguably someone who was white and American would actually play that role. Otherwise, if you would think about it in that sort of a film, it was amazing to see her, and it was great to see Sarita Chaudhary, I think, playing the mom. I think she was absolutely first rate, and I think it was wonderful to see combine all these wonderful actors. So, what drove these decisions to choose the cast that you did in the film?
Well, so the casting, I think that we looked at a lot of names, but Sarita was on top of our list from day one. Sunita was also on top of our list from day one. A lot of it was looking for really quality actresses, but as well as people who had a bit of a background that so we've all seen the sort of stereotypical mom character a lot. We've seen this, and so we wanted to make sure that that we cast someone who could both play that, but also had this sort of deep backstory, could have this layered, nuanced background. And Sarita was great because she's in her history and her film history. She was in Perfect Murder and Hasibi Masala and all these sort of sexual crazy roles. And she could bring that to this matriarch character. And with Sunita, her comedic background and the fact that she has training in a lot of different things, because the role was so dramatic, that we wanted her to bring some of that levity into the drama, which I think sort of came through. So it kept things from getting sort of too hard in certain scenes. Well, I'll mention too is that Sunita told us that it's funny you say about Dick Long, because she told us that she doesn't really go out for like Indian roles, and so like
Yeah.
she kind of almost actively avoids them. And it's like something where it's like not because she has any problem with it, but just because she likes being kind of more universal, I guess. So like she was like she was like, this is the first movie she really seriously was like, okay, I'm gonna do the Indian American woman thing.
Mm.
It
Mm.
was
Mm.
weird.
Mm.
I'll say that's because when she read the script, she's like, oh, this is not, this is treating it sort of respectfully and in an interesting like take on it, which I think is what she liked about it. We appreciated that a lot.
Yeah.
That it was like, she was like, this would be her like break into that.
Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Also, I think, Madhuri, coming to you as well, using the concept of reincarnation and nazar, so to speak, might not be something a lot of South Asians would understand. So was there ever an apprehension on part of for you, and of course Rajiv and Elan as well? Was there ever that apprehension of maybe the audience is not getting that concept? Was there ever that sort of fear in you as well? Madhuri will go with you.
I never thought of it. I never thought of it that way. I just kind of wrote the play. I think it helps that Pallavi in the story is Indian American and Usha is Indian, and so they do have a little bit of a cultural gap between them. So I do think that helps translate a lot of these concepts a little bit more easily than otherwise. But the interesting thing I've discovered is that so many cultures around the world believe in the evil eye. I did not know that. I thought it was very specific to India and maybe even my family, but it turns out like Mexican cultures believe in it, Middle Eastern cultures believe in it, African, like there's so many different cultures that actually have a very similar concept to the evil eye, even if they don't call it exactly that. And reincarnation is something like, I don't know, I'm sure the Beatles were interested in it when they got into the mysticism of the 60s. I don't think that's necessarily a foreign concept as well. But I don't, it's not something that maybe non-Indian audiences think about a lot or spend a lot of time. It doesn't like inform their lives maybe as much as it might inform ours. So that was really exciting to bring this to them.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
From our perspective, I mean, honestly, we do a lot of genre films, like supernatural and sci-fi and that kind of thing. And the reality is you're always explaining something. You're always explaining the rules of the monster, the rules of the mythology, the rules. So it's like, I think it's like, if you kind of treat it that way, it's not that complex an idea that there's something like ward off the bad things in the world.
So well, and you have Pallavi who is on the periphery, almost like the audience. And so when the mom has to explain it,
she's
Pallavi,
the skeptic. Yeah,
she's also explaining it to us. She's the audience surrogate, effectively.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And I think the film, it also addresses very rampant issues such as domestic violence and toxic masculinity, as well as we saw in the backstory of the mother. Obviously, domestic violence in a sense because obviously she was in a relationship with a very, very vile human being, and I think that's where the whole violence aspect came into it. Having explored these themes in the film, how do you think this will kind of start more dialogues in society, and especially in more Indian American works to emerge as well? Rajiv and Elan will go with you.
Well, look, I know that for us, I mean, a part of it is I mean, hopefully it will show people that that domestic violence and abuse is not always physical, that it's often psychological. That, I mean, that's something I think that, a lot of people to us have described how, it's interesting seeing how he isolated her in terms of money, how he isolated her from her friends, how these like insidious tactics, I think, is something that honestly not a lot, especially a lot of men, just don't. It doesn't occur to them that this is happening, and women, they kind of get caught up in this, and so hopefully that will open this discussion of how this happens all the time.
Right. Madhuri, what about you? What would you like to say on that?
I don't know. I hope people talk about it. I think it's also important to me that people see themselves represented in this way, because domestic violence is something that especially if you're a woman, if you haven't experienced it yourself personally in some way, somebody who has. It's extremely pervasive, and it takes place in many different ways. The thing that is really important to me in this depiction of domestic violence actually is Usha and Krishnan's relationship, where you see Usha, she has survived a bad relationship and she's gone on to have a wonderful life. And just because there's a supernatural twist coming, if this took place in the real world with the real laws of physics, she has thrived. She's, and to show the example of Krishnan being a husband who knows everything about his wife's past and loves him and loves her like completely, loves his daughter completely, models how to be a good man for her. I think that's really important too, so that's something I'm excited for people to see.
Right. I actually wanted to ask you as well, Madhuri. I mean, why did you decide to focus the narrative in India and America? I mean, don't you think perhaps if it was set in America itself with perhaps a family, an Indian family in America, and the sort of narrative that takes place and unfolds within America, do you think that perhaps would have worked more differently, do you think, had you set it in America itself rather than in two countries?
I know exactly what would have happened. Usha would have been in Sunita, like Pallavi's apartment from the beginning. If it was a 3-hour flight between them, she would have been there. I mean, my mom lives in India and I live here in the States. That's where the story comes from. I talk to her every day on the phone. We not only have this enormous physical difference, we also have the time difference, right? So we can only talk at certain times of the day. It's daytime when I'm talking to her, it's nighttime where she is. It's a real distance between us, and we struggle to overcome that distance. So part of the story is about that as well. But just on a pragmatic term, like if she could have been there, she would have been there from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that you've mentioned it, and because you said it's kind of like you kind of took it from your life because you live in America and your mom lives in India, I think that makes more sense actually as to why the narrative took place the way it did. So I get that as well. But I think there's also very few Indian American horror films, I think, generally as well, which is why I think Evil Eye is very special. So Rajeev and Elan, why do you think this is the case, and how can such representations improve, do you think?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that, on a very basic level, Hollywood has been largely Caucasian dominated. I mean, like there are films and it is kind of like rising, but the reality is that we are in like a new age of, I think, more voices, more like cultural specificity kind of like coming up. And I certainly hope that there will be more Indian American horror films. I mean, if we have anything to say, but we intend to make more. So I mean, you know what I mean? It's part of it. But I think I think there, I think the thing is, I think there are so many interesting stories to be told. I mean, like this is, some people have like, looking at the movie have been like, well, why didn't you put this in? Why isn't that in the movie? Why isn't this? Why not? And I'm like, I have this feeling that sometimes an Indian film or a Black film or this or that have this like, people feel like it has to represent everything. And I think that's kind of a bit unfair. I feel like it's like, no, this is a very specific story about a specific family. And I certainly hope that there's more films to tell other perspectives. You know what I mean?
Also say that, that this genre, what's nice about this genre is that it taps into these universal fears. And so, different cultures have, and different groups of people, different tribes, whatever, however you divide people up, have very specific fears. So like in Get Out, that was a very specific to a Black man or a Black woman going into a white community. What they fear is exactly that. This is a specific fear of a mother and daughter and of this cultural separation. And so I think that, to find what people are scared of, into that.
There are other fears to be tapped into.
Different cultures have different fears.
I definitely predict we'll be seeing more Indian American, more Indian horror films.
And also you should know that Jason under his mask was Indian American. So
right. So on a final note as well, because I think we're running out of time as well. What's next for you all? Madhuri, would start with you.
I'm writing another audio play for Audible, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm working on a new movie that hasn't been announced yet, so which is also a really, really fun project. So just
exciting. Absolutely. And Rajeev and Elan, what about you? What sort of projects are you looking to make next?
Sure. We have a couple of things in active development. We have a TV series actually set in India that we hope will be our next one. We'll see. We have another one set in America as well.
There's a we're looking at things like supernatural adventure series that we're currently developing.
And there's a really fun creature feature that we'd love to do, set kind of in the American South. So we'll see. It's Hollywood's a long process, but sometimes it can go from long to very quick, depending on
especially now when all the streamers are running out of content.
Yeah, exactly.
So we hope to be in production soon on something.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Rajeev, Elan, and Madhuri, for joining me on Filme Shilmy, and congratulations on Evil Eye once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.